Can you hear everything, Ben? All good? All right. Ready to go, Roy?
Yep.
This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm here in Las Vegas the day after an unbelievable night at the T-Mobile Arena, and I'm joined by ring legend Roy Jones Jr. Roy, always a pleasure. Firstly, how are you? How did you find last night?
I'm awesome. I found last night very fascinating. Terence Crawford came and showed that now he is definitely the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. The only thing that was stopping him was that he hadn't had that #1 opposition to give him the clear title, which is why Fury held the title, because Fury had Wilder. He didn't have a Wilder yet. So you had to give it to Fury until he beat Crawford. Once he beats Crawford, now he solidified his place at the top of the heat for the pound-for-pound.
I'm interested to get your thoughts on that. You know, this is somewhat seen as Crawford's breakout moment. Everybody within boxing knew how good he was, but now he's a two-weight undisputed champion at 35 years of age. Why do you think it's maybe taken that little bit longer for him to be recognised like that? And what's it going to be like for him moving forwards, knowing that this is kind of his new life?
It took that long because it took him that long to get somebody in front of him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it takes you a while to get a valuable opponent, a valued enough opponent that people will say, okay, this guy has the skills that if he beats him, he's #1. I was fortunate because I had James Toney early in my career when I was 25.
Yeah.
He didn't get to do it till he got 35. He'd been wanting to since he's probably about 30, but he just couldn't make it happen because of the politics in the sport of boxing. So politically, it was very difficult to make it happen. I understood that. Same reason why, for me, I never got an opportunity to become a 4-belt champion, because Darius had the belts in Germany. He wouldn't come over here and fight. I wasn't gonna take all my belts to him, and I'm the man. It just made no sense to me. So same things.
You mentioned getting James Toney earlier on in your career. What was that like in terms of how your career then shifted, your mentality just shifted and everything around you changed for the better, and trying to kind of deal with anything that would change moving forwards? And what should Terence expect now that he's in that same position?
Well, now he's the man of the welterweights. Everybody in a weight class above him and a weight class below him are looking at him, because there are some guys in those lower weight classes, there are some guys in the weight class above him that want to be the man. And everybody knows to be the man, you got to beat the man. James Toney was a weight class above me, but he was the man. So I knew I had to go see the man if I wanted to be the man. Now Bud has just solidified himself as the man. If they want to be the man, they got to go through Bud Crawford.
Is there anyone around those weights you think has it in them to defeat Bud?
I'm not going to say it's anyone that has what it takes to defeat him right now, because to me, right now, Bud is at his peak. You know, there's a guy named Jerron Ennis who's going to be a good fight for him as a formidable opponent. There's another guy that they talk about overseas, I forget his name, they say he's going to be a formidable opponent. But what needs to happen is that guy probably should fight Ennis to figure out which one of them are the best. Then the best of the rest should be allowed to fight Bud after the Spence rematch, if that happens.
We know Jamel Charlo up at 154 was ringside. Bud was on the ropes, kind of, you know, egging him on, saying to him, like, somewhat, I imagine that he's coming for him as well. Do you think that Charlo would have any chance with Bud?
I'm not going to say that. What I'm saying is that how can we give Charlo to Bud when Charlo got to face Canelo? So it's like we can't put our horse in front of the wagon, put our wagon in front of the horse. We got to let things play out first. He's already signed a contract to fight Canelo, from my understanding. Yeah. If that's the case, it's no sense in him even thinking about Bud. He probably shouldn't have even been there last night, because you know that's going to happen. Now that's going to sit in the back of your head. Whereas you got a much bigger fish to fry first. Then you got to come back down if you are successful and face Bud. So don't get too much on your plate at one time, or it's hard to focus on eating anything.
Just going back to last night, what impressed you the most about Terence's performance, and what was you kind of surprised by with how fragile Errol looked?
I was not surprised, because I was the person who said a couple of weeks back that if you get thrown out of a car going over 120 miles per hour, you're going to have some repercussions that people are not going to see right away, but it's going to show up on you at a time when you least expect it to show up. Last night was something like I'd never seen before. Never seen a guy's face turn that color in the second round of a fight. You understand me? That tells you that there had to be a lot of work done to bring him back to where he is now. So that being said, it's not an excuse for him, and it's not taking nothing away from what Terence did, because I thought Terence would have did something similar to that even if he hadn't had the car wreck. because Terence just had a bigger toolbox. Nothing to take away from Errol. Errol thinks that means I don't like him or I'm against him. No. I just watched Terence grow up on HBO. I commentated him from day one on HBO. I knew what Terence had. I seen him change clothes. I seen him change styles. I've seen him change stances in the middle of fights to make up for what was going on at the time, to make the adjustments. So I've seen him make adjustments on the fly. I never seen Spence really have to do that because his pressure always was the answer. So if your pressure is the answer, quite naturally, why are you going to change? So even though he needed to change, an outside person couldn't tell him that. So when I voiced my opinion, everybody got mad at me. Oh, you hating on Spence. How can I be hating on him? I don't have no reason to hate on nobody. I'm pound for pound one of the best fighters to ever do it. I don't have nothing else to prove. Why would I hate on any fighter? If I tell you something, you probably should think about what I'm saying and try to go fix that. Because now you'd be better prepared for whatever it is that we're speaking about you doing. So if you'd listen to what I said and say, oh, he's saying my toolbox ain't deep enough. Well, let me go sharpen all my other tools, if I have them. Then I can make this really a more formidable fight, and I can show him what he didn't know that I had. Because that's what I've been looking to see. I'm not saying you don't have it, but show me. They're like, well, compare the records. It ain't about the records, it's about what I've seen. I haven't seen one fighter that Errol Spence fought that could stand up to his pressure. So he ain't had no reason to show me nothing else. But I seen Bud have to change clothes several times. He had to change with the little guy from Cuba. He had to change with the guy from Puerto Rico. I don't remember all their names, but I remember seeing him. He had to change for the guy that he fought first, Prescott. He was brought in to fight Prescott. He wasn't supposed to beat Prescott. Prescott was supposed to win. You understand me? Prescott just knocked out Amir Khan. He was supposed to beat Bud Crawford. Bud shut him down. That was the birth of Bud Crawford on HBO right then. So from that day, I knew Bud was something special. You understand me? So to beat someone special, you can't be one-dimensional. I'm not saying that Earl was one-dimensional, but that's all I've ever seen. So when you show me something different, I will see it. I don't see boxing through the eyes of the normal spectator. I see boxing through the eyes of a former boxer who knows what I'm looking at. So when I say I want to see you show me that you can change clothes midstream, I've never seen that. That don't matter who you beat already. Those guys wasn't good enough to make you have to change clothes. That don't say nothing. But that don't mean I don't like you. That just means I haven't seen you do what I've seen him been forced to do. I've seen Terence forced to have to change clothes. You understand me? So
looking towards the future with Errol Spence particularly, a lot of people have questioned maybe if this is kind of the end of the road or if it would be a correct call for him to maybe step away from the sport on the back of how tough of a fight that was last night for him, as you mentioned, the car accident, alongside other issues he's had throughout his latter part of his career. Would you think it would be a wise move for him to maybe consider that? Or, as he's mentioned, he has that rematch clause. If he could get it at 154, would it be any different? What are your thoughts on what should be next for Spence?
154, if he can get a rematch at 154, I think he probably would be okay to do that. The thing you got to realize about Spence, and this is the part that he don't know that I understand. Spence is a warrior too. He's not no chump, he's a warrior. And people got to understand that. For him to keep getting up in that fight last night and keep coming back and keep trying, here's a guy, once again, like I said, been thrown out of a car going in excess of 100 miles per hour. This guy, for him to do what he did last night, still says a lot about him. So quite naturally, he's not going to want to walk away. He want to come back and try to get that back. That's just who he is, the heart of a champion. He has the heart of a champion. I'm not going to never say that he's not. He has what it takes to be a world champion, or he wouldn't have been what he was. You understand me? So quite naturally, him having that, he going to have to come back because that's just who he is. Now, should he question or should he go look into his health situation? Yes, you should make sure you're fully healthy before you come back because truthfully, at this point, you have nothing to prove either. You dominated everybody else except pound for pound, probably the best fighter fighting right now. Everybody else you dominated with one step. You took one step out and dominated them. That says a lot.
Roy, you suffered an unprecedented loss here to Antonio Tarver, similar to what we saw last night. I know you said you expected something special from Bud. Not many people expected to be just as special as what it was. With that in mind and your fight with Antonio Tarver, what comparisons can you draw with that and how did you deal with and cope with that loss?
Well, the difference was I had already gone up and did what I wanted to do in boxing. I came back down, I had one thing left, regain the light heavyweight title. That's what my goal was. I beat Antonio Tarver with a depleted body. a body that should have never even been in the ring. But it showed the heart that I had. And that's why I understand and respect and recognize heart. I beat him with that heart. Should have stopped at that because I knew my body wasn't the same then. You understand me? He, going through that car accident, knows his body's not the same either. Because when your body go through traumatic stress like that, it takes a lot out of our bodies whether we like it or not. It took a lot out of Errol's body going through all that stuff he went through in the accident. The other guys he fought before this guy weren't what this guy is. Those guys succumbed to the pressure. They couldn't take the 12-hour pressure, whether he was 100% or whether he's 80%. This guy, you got to be 105% to beat him, even with the pressure. And if you can't change, you're still not going to beat him. So there's a difference. So both of these guys were at their primes as far as their career go when they met. Me, I reached my prime way before I met him in my career. I then went up, up, and up, and up. You remember, I started as a junior middleweight. I went all the way to the heavyweight championship, then back and recaptured the light heavyweight title. So my career was done at that point. You understand me? I did everything I wanted to do. So the losses to him there's nothing in resemblance to this. This was a pound for pound. Had I lost to James Toney, when that pound for pound came, that would have been very similar to this. The loss to Tarver, that has nowhere near close to this. That happened after I did everything I wanted to do, after I lost all that weight, went through that traumatic stress. Then I still beat him one time, then he beat me twice.
How do you keep that hunger though when you've achieved so much, and you mentioned him there for yourself, dropping back down to try and defeat Antonio Tarver, keeping that hunger there, and you look at the Errol Spences and Crawfords we saw last night, how they go about ensuring they keep it moving forwards?
If you're a winner, you wake up like that. If you're a winner, you wake up like this. If you're a winner, you wake up like this. That's simple.
Roy, obviously Vegas is widely considered to be the home of boxing. All the big fights are brought here. You fought here, I think, 6 or 7 times during your career yourself, and it's hosted some of the biggest fights in the sport here. What is it about this fight city which is so special?
Well, you got legalized gambling. Gambling's everywhere. Everywhere's a casino. They got slot machines in the airport. You understand? It's gambling everywhere. Boxing always cited gambling. Yeah. You know, everybody likes, somebody likes this side, somebody likes that side. What's the best way to resolve our argument? A bet. So instead of fighting about it, how are we going to fight about a fight? We argue about it, but what's our only way to resolve it? A friendly bet.
Roy, just moving away from kind of the aftermath of last night, just get your thoughts on a couple of other things. We haven't had a chance to catch up since the news broke of yourself and Junior parting ways. I was really kind of get a bit more of an understanding as to why you felt that it was a right move on both sides.
I really don't want to talk about that right now. That's his thing. He has a fight coming up, a very important fight that I think he should win, and I want him to win. So it's not about me and him, it's about him. I want the best for him right now, you feel me? So whatever it takes to get the best for him is what I want for him. So right now, my schedule got hectic because when they sent me back home, I had other guys come up with fights. So with these other guys coming up with fights, it's not right for me to pull out from under them at the last minute. Yeah, they're not making the money that Chris Eubank make. They're not making the money. I'm not making the money that I would make with Chris Eubank. But for me, it's not about that. It's about principle. And if you're going to be around people, then you be around people that understand and respect that. And when you give people your word, you kind of got to stick to your word. So these guys, once he said, well, when the fight gets scheduled, we'll call back. Well, life can't stop for my other fighters. They still got to go on. You understand me? So I'm not, there's nothing against him, nothing against the situation, but I can't just pull away from these guys because now they decide he's going to fight. That's not fair to them. You know, yeah, am I making more money with him than them? Of course. Is it about the money though? No, it's not. For me, it's about being a teacher that I am. And it's about being dedicated to who I'm dedicated to. And it's about making change for those who deserve to make change, or making sacrifices for those who deserve me to make that sacrifice. There are some of these guys who are not as good as Chris Eubank, who really need help. They're not going to win the fights if I'm not there. So I can't just say, okay, forget them and go to him. That's not fair to them. No, it's not the same money. It's not about money. So.
Going into, you've just mentioned that rematch there with Liam Smith. We're only, about 6 weeks or so out from that now, and if he still isn't in a position with a new head trainer, what advice would you give to him? Is there anybody in particular who you think he might gel well with? You got the likes of Bomac and Derrick James in there tonight, last night, rather.
Those guys, I mean, Derrick James said he got to go to England anyway to train Joshua. So maybe he should go. He got David Hay and can't with him though. Yeah. So if he got David Hay, it's another guy by the name of Lamar Parks, who I used to fight with back in the day, who understands a lot of my style of boxing. He would be really good for him too. So I would tell him to reach out for him if he don't find anybody else, because that guy's really good and he has nobody right now. So he can give you 100% of his time. But he also has David. David is a very good trainer. I love everything David was bringing to the camp. I think if David is focused and he can keep David close to him, David's going to make him do better than people expect him to do.
How dangerous can it be, not just for Junior, but for any fighter to be effectively a month away from such a massive fight? A lot of people looking at it thinking if he loses, he might not have anywhere to go beyond it, and to be in a position without a head trainer, how difficult can that be for any fighter to kind of make sure they're on the right side of a result come fight night?
Well, sometimes you got to sacrifice. You want to sacrifice? I'm still in Pensacola, Florida. I'm still training my guys there. I can't come to Vegas right now and train. I'm training guys in Pensacola. If you want it that bad, show up in Pensacola. I'm not against that. I didn't say you can't, but I can't come to Vegas right now.
What does he have to do to have his hand raised against Liam in the rematch?
Just do what he got to do, be Chris Eubank, do what he should have did the first time, what we said, what we trained to do the first time, just do that. And his hands will be raised.
That's fair enough, Roy. Just a couple more quick ones, because I know it's very hot out here and you've got your wife waiting for you there. Moving forward, Joshua-Whyte 2. You mentioned obviously Derrick James being there with Anthony Joshua. August 12th is only a couple of weeks away now. Your thoughts on that fight?
I think it should be a good fight. I think Joshua probably would beat him again. Hopefully him and Derrick became more comfortable with one another now. And he has a little bit better understanding of what Derrick wants from him. And hopefully they'll put together a good game plan and they'll beat White again. I mean, he knows how to beat him. He beat him one time already. So he should actually beat him better this time than he did the first time if he has proper training.
Derrick James obviously a phenomenal trainer, Roy, but do you think on the back of Joshua's first fight with him with Frank Martin didn't necessarily look great a couple of weeks ago when he fought Joshua going into this rematch? Is there a pressure on him to really pull out a result there, especially on the back of last night for Derrick and Spence's loss?
It's very hard for me to say that because it's funny to me that when Chris Eubank loses, everybody blames me. Yeah. And Chris didn't really listen to me that fight. So they blame me for it. But when Spence loses, they didn't blame Derrick James. You understand me? So I don't want to talk about the other trainers because they'll be saying, oh, he's hating on the other trainers, or he's trying to take their fighters, or he's this, or he's that. I don't even want to talk about that. So I hope him and Derrick can get it together, and I wish him nothing but the very best.
Haney-Prograis, there's a lot of talks about that's going to take place next. Devin Haney moving up to 140. Just your thoughts on that, the right move for him?
It's the right move for him, yes. It's definitely the right move for him. And you got to understand that there are a lot of big fights that are about to happen, because last night just reopened the envelope. They turned it back to the Roy Jones days, the King of the Hill, which is what I love, because that's what the people before me did. The Pernell Whitakers and the Sugar Ray Leonards and the Mike Tysons and the Muhammad Ali's and the Evander Holyfields and the Lennox Lewis's. They fought whoever came up that hill, you feel me? Now we're starting to get back to that era. Last night was a reopening of the envelope to the whole world of boxing, and I love it. So now I can't wait to see these guys continue to go up and excel and do bigger and better things, even in the weight classes above their own weight classes. Yes, I love it.
Roy, you speak so passionately every day whenever I speak to you. Do you ever miss it, especially when you see nights like last night?
You know I miss it. You got to miss it, but you got to love it, because you see what you stood for has passed down, and some people got it. The two guys that fought last night, they get it. You got to go out and prove who's the best. People want to know who's the best of that weight class. They don't want to know how many champions are there. They want to know which one of them can get all the belts. Which one of them is the man that when he fights, we turn on TV, because that's what Mike Tyson stood for. That's what Pernell Whitaker stood for. That's what Oscar De La Hoya stood for. That's what Roy Jones Jr. stood for. When he fights, everything got to stop, because we don't know what Roy might do. When he fights, everything got to stop, because we don't know what Mike might do. When he fights, everything got to stop, because we don't know what Muhammad Ali may do. You understand me? We don't know what Sugar Ray Leonard may do. You understand me? Those are the things that we got to have back in boxing.
Roy, I think it's safe to say the room stops whenever you walk through, never mind when you were fighting. But just a final one to get your thoughts on. We mentioned Canelo Charlo earlier, obviously Jamal moving up 2 weights. Just your thoughts on that fight as well, please.
I mean, you got to remember, Canelo came from junior middleweight too. So what are we saying here? Are we talking about something that's impossible? He did it. Why he can't do it? He ain't going to take his time and go weight by weight. He's just going to go ahead and make the jump. So maybe he feels like he's better equipped for it than Canelo was. But we'll find out.
Right, Roy, listen, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today. Obviously, I hope you enjoy the remainder of your time here in Las Vegas, and I'll speak to you again soon. Thanks for speaking to me on Boxing News.
Thank you, my brother.